Have you ever wondered how one man could transform a vast agrarian empire into an industrial superpower, all while orchestrating one of the most brutal reigns of terror in modern history? Today, we're diving deep into the life of Joseph Stalin, a figure whose name is synonymous with both monumental achievement and unimaginable suffering. His story is a chilling lesson in power, ideology, and the dark potential of human nature. Let's start at the beginning. He wasn't born Stalin. He was born Joseph Jugashvili in 1878 in the small town of Gori, Georgia, then part of the Russian Empire. His childhood was far from idyllic. His family was poor, and his father, a shoemaker, was abusive. Young Joseph contracted smallpox, which left his face permanently scarred. Despite these hardships, his mother was determined to see him succeed and enrolled him in a church school, hoping he'd become a priest. He was a bright but rebellious student, eventually moving on to the Tiflis Spiritual Seminary. It was here, surrounded by books and clandestine political circles, that his revolutionary spirit ignited. He was drawn to the writings of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, and before long, he was expelled from the seminary for his radical activities. This marked the end of Joseph Jugashvili and the beginning of a life as a professional revolutionary. He adopted a series of aliases, eventually settling on Stalin, which means man of steel in Russian. The name was a declaration of intent. He joined the Bolshevik faction of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, led by Lenin. Stalin wasn't a great orator or a profound theorist like some of his contemporaries. Instead, he was a man of action, a master of the backroom deal and the dirty work. He organized strikes, wrote propaganda, and even participated in bank robberies to fund the party. His activities made him a wanted man. Between 1902 and 1913, the Tsar's secret police arrested and exiled him to Siberia multiple times, but he always managed to escape, returning to the revolutionary underground more determined than ever. He was tough, ruthless, and completely dedicated to the cause. The turning point came in 1917. When the Russian Revolution erupted, Stalin was right there in the capital, Petrograd. While figures like Lenin and Trotsky took the spotlight, Stalin worked tirelessly behind the scenes. After the Bolsheviks seized power, he was appointed People's Commissar for Nationalities. During the brutal Russian Civil War that followed, he proved his military and administrative mettle, often using extreme measures to ensure victory. His real masterstroke, however, came in 1922 when he was appointed General Secretary of the Communist Party. On the surface, it seemed like a dull, bureaucratic job. But Stalin saw its potential. He controlled party appointments, building a vast network of loyalists who owed their careers to him. When Lenin died in 1924, a power struggle began. Lenin, in his final testament, had actually warned against Stalin, describing him as too rude and calling for his removal. But Stalin, using his control of the party machine, suppressed the testament. His main rival was the charismatic Leon Trotsky, a brilliant theorist and leader of the Red Army. Stalin skillfully played his opponents against each other. He allied with Zinoviev and Kamenev to sideline Trotsky, promoting his own idea of socialism in one country against Trotsky's theory of permanent world revolution. Once Trotsky was neutralized and exiled, Stalin turned on his former allies, Zinoviev and Kamenev, accusing them of factionalism. By the late 1920s, he had outmaneuvered every major rival. The man of steel had consolidated absolute power. With his rule secured, Stalin embarked on a ruthless mission to transform the Soviet Union. His goal was to drag the country from a backward agricultural society into a modern industrial powerhouse in a single decade. He launched the first of his ambitious 5-year plans. Giant factories, dams, and cities sprang up seemingly overnight. Industrial output soared. But this progress came at an astronomical human cost. The labor force was driven relentlessly, often under slave-like conditions in the Gulag labor camps. Simultaneously, Stalin declared war on the peasantry with the policy of collectivization. He aimed to eliminate private land ownership and force millions of peasants onto massive state-controlled farms. This policy was met with fierce resistance. Peasants slaughtered their livestock rather than hand them over. Stalin responded with overwhelming force. So-called kulaks, or wealthy peasants, were targeted for liquidation as a class. Millions were executed or deported. The disruption to agriculture was catastrophic, leading to a devastating famine that swept across the Soviet Union. The worst-hit region was Ukraine, where the famine known as the Holodomor is now recognized by many countries as a genocide. Millions starved to death while the state seized grain for export. It was a man-made disaster of epic proportions. To crush any dissent, Stalin unleashed the Great Purge in the mid-1930s. The secret police, the NKVD, arrested millions on fabricated charges of treason and sabotage. Higher-ranking party officials, military leaders, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens were subjected to show trials where they confessed to absurd crimes under torture and were then executed or sent to the Gulag. An entire generation of the original Bolsheviks was wiped out, replaced by a new elite completely loyal to Stalin. A pervasive climate of fear gripped the nation, where a careless word could lead to a knock on the door in the middle of the night. As the 1930s drew to a close, a new threat was rising in Europe: Nazi Germany. Initially, Stalin sought alliances with Western powers against Hitler, but wary of each other, they failed to reach an agreement. In a stunning reversal, Stalin signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with his ideological arch-enemy, Hitler, in August 1939. This non-aggression treaty included secret protocols that carved up Poland and other parts of Eastern Europe between them. For nearly 2 years, the Soviet Union supplied Germany with vital resources. Stalin seemed to believe he had outsmarted Hitler, buying time to build up his military. He was catastrophically wrong. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive surprise invasion of the Soviet Union. The initial onslaught was devastating. The Red Army, weakened by the purges of its officer corps, was caught completely off guard. German forces advanced hundreds of miles, encircling and destroying entire Soviet armies. For the first few days, Stalin was reportedly paralyzed by shock. But then, the Man of Steel re-emerged. He rallied the nation with a famous radio address, not as a communist leader, but as a Russian patriot calling for a great patriotic war. He took supreme command of the war effort, ruling with an iron fist. The war on the Eastern Front was fought with a level of brutality and on a scale unseen in human history. The turning point came at the Battle of Stalingrad. After months of ferocious, street-by-street fighting, the surrounded German Sixth Army surrendered in early 1943. It was a colossal defeat for Hitler and a monumental psychological victory for the Soviets. From Stalingrad, the Red Army began its long, bloody push west, culminating in the capture of Berlin in May 1945. The Soviet Union had played the decisive role in defeating Nazi Germany, but the price was unimaginable. An estimated 27 million Soviet citizens, both soldiers and civilians, had perished. The end of World War II left the Soviet Union as one of the world's two superpowers alongside the United States. Stalin's prestige was at its peak. He installed communist regimes across Eastern Europe, creating a buffer zone of satellite states. This expansion of Soviet influence triggered a new global conflict, the Cold War. An Iron Curtain, as Winston Churchill called it, descended across Europe, dividing the continent for the next 4 decades. In his final years, Stalin's paranoia only intensified. He launched new purges, including the Doctor's Plot, which targeted Jewish physicians. The country remained locked in his grip of terror. Then, on March 5, 1953, the dictator died of a stroke. For days, he had lain helpless on the floor as his terrified subordinates were too afraid to intervene without direct orders. Stalin's legacy is profoundly and terrifyingly complex. After his death, his successor, Nikita Khrushchev, delivered a secret speech denouncing Stalin's crimes and his cult of personality, leading to a period of de-Stalinization. Yet, the system he built endured for decades. To this day, he is remembered in 2 starkly different ways. To millions, He is the tyrant responsible for the deaths of countless people through purges, famines, and the Gulag. He created a totalitarian state built on fear. But to others, particularly in modern Russia, he is the strong leader who defeated Nazism and transformed the USSR into a global superpower that could challenge America. His story is a powerful and disturbing reminder of how a single individual's will can forge a nation's destiny, for better and for worse. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Joseph Stalin. If you found this exploration of history fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that unpacks the complex figures and events that shaped our world. See you next time.